Cheyenne Palacio-McCarthy.
I love you too. Woo! Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Whew. Can we just all take a collective Hampshire breath? Just on three, 1, 2, 3. Whew. Man, we finally get to breathe again. Oh man, I am so humbled and blessed to stand amongst you today. Truly, truly. How do I start crying in the beginning of this? Okay. Whew. I'm gonna get it together. All right. I would first like to begin by thanking the graduating class of F15 for electing me to be your student speaker. Again, I'm both humbled and blessed to be standing amongst you today. I would also like to take the time to recognize all the amazing faculty, staff, friends, and mentors who have graciously offered up their words of wisdom, time, love, and guidance to all of us. Yeah. You all have been an integral part of our growth throughout some of the toughest and greatest seasons of these 4 years. And to my mother, you have been, whew, okay. You have been my secret place, a place where I can come broken, beaten, and battered without shame. Your continuous sacrifice is exemplary of unconditional love. Thank you for choosing me every day. I love you. And to my immediate family, I would like to say, thank you all for being my nest. Thank you for being the places that I can call home and places where love is familiar. And to all of you, I say thank you for being my village, my people. Thank you so much. I love you too. All right, after I gotta get out this emotion, all right. Whew. I came to Hampshire based on a series of promises. The promise of a self-driven education, the promise of mentorship and advising that would help define and refine my ideas into action plans, the promise of an enlivened student body empowered to defy the status quo, the promise of a campus climate where folks are critically engaged in social issues, the promise of a place of intentional wandering, a place to decipher one's own voice amongst the many, a place to develop a deep sense of self, and discover how one's own skill set can be tailored to support the journey they go on, answering the questions deep within themselves. These promises did not come with a caveat saying, without hard work or without challenges. These promises required things of us. They required grit, discipline, diligence, fortitude, risk, daring greatly, a boldness. These promises have been met by Hampshire, and then some. Upon arriving at Hampshire, one of Hampshire's resounding mottos was and is, to know is not enough. I was so inspired by this sentiment because it's where both knowledge and action live. It's one of Hampshire's defining factors. To know knowledge beyond the stationary and to actively seek the change. One of the first questions I was asked to explore was, how have I come to know what I think I know? The study of epistemology took me on an eventful journey within myself It's shifted the way I consumed information and what I consider knowledge. This is just one of the many beautiful shifts I've experienced throughout Hampshire. And I have no doubt that you've experienced this shift yourself. This statement, to know is not enough, it takes the most intimate parts of you and makes them relational. And that's where the hard work begins. Like, how could something in me be problematic? Like, you know? After completing my first year at Hampshire, I left with more questions than I had answers. I had a bandwidth of knowledge I had no idea what to do with, no idea what I wanted to do with it. When attending Hampshire's home event, which is the overnight multicultural events, yeah, y'all remember that? An alumni and friend, Kamisha Tate, turned to me and said, "You will love the person you leave Hampshire becoming." And I knew then that this was the place where I needed to be. Alum Ken Burns, class of F71, said it best in a 2017 interview. Hampshire's whole model is based on the risks that are necessary to graduate, from knowledge, the mere accumulation of knowledge, to synthesizing that knowledge into real understanding. I do not recognize the person who took the risk to go to Hampshire and the person who went through all the series of risks Hampshire asks you to take in pursuit of your own self-knowledge. I say all this because these promises that Hampshire has made, we have triumphed as a community, facing every challenge together. Yeah. Hampshire College does what many institutions fail to do. Hampshire stands in the gap of dark truth and critical hope, fostering change makers like yourselves. I think sometimes Hampshire forgets that its students will act upon these promises in real ways, holding it accountable. Yeah. You know, most people, they agree with the sentiment of a Hampshire bubble. But I'd like to push back on that a little bit. Because Hampshire understands that it is a site for change in the real world, while also many times demands more of others than it does itself. We saw this our first year at the community meeting / outpour. We as a student body were going to be heard. We understood that Hampshire is no different from other institutions, and we sought to hold it accountable just as we would the world. Hampshire students practice seeking the change they hope to see. And for that, I'm so grateful for. So grateful. That is where the love is, that you show up day in and day out, all of you. You show up sometimes by stepping back, and we've got comfortable with that. You got to leave for a little bit. Oh, I'm uncomfortable, but it's okay. I'll see you soon. You know, this is one of the most active student bodies I have ever experienced in my entire life. Yeah. Community organizing is the foundation of this population. And over the past 4 years, the world has been watching, asking, who are those students setting fire to the status quo? You know? They're asking themselves, who are they that dare demand justice in the face of complacency? What? It's Hampshire College. It's Hampshire College. You know, I pray that you keep your Hampshire t-shirts. I pray that you put it on every day before you go out to work and remember your superpowers. Remember, you are not a cog in a machine. Let there be a watch party for all Hampshire College alum, because we will be the ones inciting the next wave of change in the coming generations. Yep. I pray you show up so boldly in the face of opposition that all they have to say is, I'd have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. You know, be the meddling kids. We are the meddling kids, sticking out our noses, sniffing out all signs of injustice. You know, we as a student body protesting the layoffs of saga workers is who Hampshire is. Yep. You know, Hampshire is a hotbed of action because it has made itself a site of and for change. This is the beauty of it all. You are all some of the most tenacious, forthcoming, brilliant individuals, again, that I've ever met. As you continue to reflect on your Hampshire experience, know this: you are more than qualified. You will suffer because you know truths that are not self-evident. You will disrupt the systems you enter by making injustice uncomfortable. You will thrive in the most difficult of settings because you have spent 4 years being stretched to the corners of your comfort zones, tight-roping around the edges of your fears, rising to every challenge, being the challenge, at a small liberal arts school in Amherst, Mass, called Hampshire College. Hampshire College was birthed as an insurgence in higher ed. We were not made to fit the form or model of any other institution, having been radically imagined to incite a new paradigm shift in education. We as a community will never die because from our inception, we have been fighting to exist and exist in opposition to all traditional models, all those who will never forget what happened or happens here. Just take a moment and just raise your hand and just say, I commit Hampshire to my memory. I commit everyone present to my memory. And just look around, take in your neighbors. Because believe it or not, we're gonna need each other outside. We're gonna need people who understand why we are sitting in silent and enraged in the rooms that we will enter. Someone who will relate. So, take Hampshire in, and take Hampshire with you in every mason jar you see, every gluten-free cookie, and smile at every person without shoes because the memory of Hampshire, smile at every person without shoes because the memory of Hampshire, it never dies, it just lives alive in you. Thank you.